Testing, testing. Mic test. Mic tests. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? Testing mic tests. Okay. Okay, let's give it a few moments before we wait for the others to join this webinar. Okay, let's give it a moment. Let me set things up. Okay, let's begin. Okay, thank you for joining me today. Today we are having the Vantage Strategy Clinic, where we will be trading live, giving some ideas on the markets. Well, we will be talking about the key news events that will be expected for the week ahead, along with their technical setups. We'll be highlighting key news events, central bank notes, and key support and resistance levels to look out for. This webinar is brought to you by Everest Fortune Group in collaboration with Vantage Markets. Okay, wait now. We are an award-winning research firm and finalists for 2019, 2020, and 2021 for the best Forex and equity research. We work with the major financial institutions to help them forecast where the markets are heading. And now we have a special partnership with Vantage Markets where we are bringing you guys the good stuff every day. Okay. Anyway, disclaimer as usual. This webinar is purely educational and nothing in this webinar should be construed as investment or trading advice. So please do your own due diligence before trading. Okay, I have to read this disclaimer. It's required before I start this webinar. Okay, the information, context, opinions, which are expressed in the presentation and on the following slides are solely those of the presenter and not necessarily those of Vantage, and are solely used for educational purposes as they do not constitute investment advice or consultation on how a client should trade. Vantage does not guarantee the accuracy or reliability of the information provided. Risk warning: trading margin Forex and CFDs carries significant risk and is not suitable for all investors. You could lose substantially more than your initial investments when acquiring our derivative products. You have no entitlement, rights, or obligation to the underlying financial assets. You are kindly advised to read the relevant documents on our legal documents page and seek independent advice. To fully understand the risk before deciding to trade, information is of general nature only and does not consider your financial objectives or personal circumstances. The responsibility for using and or relying on such opinions, material, context lies with the clients, and Vantage accepts on responsibility for any loss, including without limitation to any loss of profit, resulting directly or indirectly from reliance on such information. Attendees should note that sessions are audio recorded and may be published in various media, including print, audio, and video formats without further notice. Okay, let's move on. We are done with the disclaimer. Let me introduce our analysts. First, we have, okay, let me get the pen. We have Desmond Leong. He is our chief trader. Next, we have Jianing. She is our investment analyst. Next, we have Jin Dao Tai. He's our prop trader and also our fundamental analyst. And next, it's me. I am the investment analyst and my name is Chen Yongjing. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, let me repeat myself. We are the finalists for the Best Forex Research 2019, 2020, and 2021. We are also the finalists for Best Equity Research for 2020 and 2021. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to the charts. Okay, before we begin, if you want some kind of education material, you can go to Google, you can visit Vantage Markets, you search Vantage Markets. So is the first link, Vantage. Okay, let it load. Okay, so we have a leverage of 500 to 1, and the minimum deposit is only $50. And if you want to learn more education and webinars, you can go under Education and Tools, Education Webinars, and you can click on it. Once you click on it, you can see all the upcoming webinars, and you can register for them so you do not miss out on it. Just in case sometimes the emails get sent late, etc. So you will not be late. Okay, let us move on to the markets. Let's check out Forex Factory. Let me show all the currencies. Okay, so today we have the Aussie trade, we have EU, we have GU, but let us look at EU first. Okay, so there isn't much major news today that might affect the markets. So let's move on to the charts for EU and check out what I am currently looking at. So as usual before I start, I will usually go to the monthly. We'll get the, as you guys have watched me, I always mention a lot about the previous monthly highs, monthly lows, daily highs, daily lows, etc. So let's mark it out. Again, for those new here, I always do this before I start trading. Okay, next we have the weekly. Okay, previous weekly high. Weekly low. And next, we'll move on to the daily. Here for the daily, we have the daily high and the daily low. Okay, let's move on. Usually before I start, I always want a daily bias before I start trading. So if your daily bias is wrong, you are usually wrong for the entire day. So let's say your daily bias, you're trying to go short, but you keep buying, you keep shorting and shorting since your daily bias is short, but actually the daily bias is actually in a bullish for the day. You will keep getting stopped out, and that's not the way. So let's not revenge trade when you get a loss and with a wrong daily bias. So daily bias is a very important thing to start off with. Okay, let's move on. Let me know where you guys are streaming in from. I'm interested on that. Do let me know where you guys are from. Okay, let's move on next to the 4-hour chart. So for my daily bias for EU, since EU has tapped this area I'm looking at. Okay, it has tapped into this area and reflected upwards. Okay, since price has a long wick. Okay, since price is like that, it's broken. My daily bias for today is probably on the short side to clear this wick below. But let us see where we can hit first before we continue. The 4 hours. Okay, we have a pretty nice area, the weekly low. We reflected off it, the weekly high, reflected off it, shot back up, and price is coming back down. So it's possible that price might continue heading downwards. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay, 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 you guys, I'm sure you guys are looking right now. You guys are thinking, what are all these? What are all these? These are the Ichimoku curve. So if price is above, you can add confluence to your trade that the market is actually bullish. So the market is currently above the cloud. We can say that the market is bullish. But on the daily, price is below the Ichimoku cloud. So we can say that the market is bearish on the overall daily time frame. Okay, let's move on to the hourly one to see what is going on, what kind of pattern it's going on. Sorry. Okay. Okay, what I like to see, as I always mention, is clean market structure. So what do I mean by clean market structure? Clean market structure, I like it when the market does this, nicely goes up and nicely comes down. So to me, this is not really that clean of a market structure, but compared to this is a clean one. Okay, and I also like to look out for market imbalance. Okay, what is market imbalance? I'm sure I have already mentioned previously. You can just draw it out. Market imbalance is the usual. I have mentioned it before. So what I like to see, price goes down, clears the liquidity, this liquidity area, goes down, and you can have an entry over here with your stop loss above for the nice trade. As I mentioned, the weekly high, weekly low always act as a form of support and resistance. So price came down, tapped onto this area, and it reversed back up cleanly. So let me clear it out. Let me check, is there any trades that I'm personally looking at for euro dollar? So let's take a look. On the M15 charts. Okay. Okay, price has cleared some liquidity area, but I am currently looking personally for price to clear this area. Where can you see the liquidity on the M15 chart? 15-minute charts. If you guys have read up on liquidity, like I told you guys to, you guys can actually find out liquidity is lying over here. It's lying right here. Why? Why is it lying there? Well, look, it's equal low. Equal low. So personally, I'm waiting for price to clear this area. Let me set this out, sell side liquidity. Okay, let me change the thickness. Okay, sell side liquidity. I'm waiting for price to clear this area before I continue anything, but hold on, look at this area. There is another liquidity area over there. So I'll mark it out. I will not be taking any longs anytime soon until price clears this area and this area, because these areas are equal lows. Just to play safe, you do not want to, upon break of this area, you try to long it up, but price then comes down and clear. It's just a safety measure. Mark it out so you guys can know where liquidity is attracted to. Liquidity is attracted to all these areas like a magnet. Okay, let's move on to the 5 minutes. Let me check, is there anything of interest? Okay, just now, okay, this is an honest mistake that I did earlier on. Luckily, I deleted my position already. I actually wanted to long somewhere here to clear this buy side liquidity. Let me type it out in full. So I was looking earlier on, right, to actually enter a trade to clear this buy side liquidity. But I did not get stopped out. I did not enter. I deleted my buy limits. But why? Let me explain. Why did I delete my buy limit? I wanted to buy somewhere here with my stop loss below this area, somewhere below. Okay, why? I wanted a 1-to-1 trade. But why did I cancel? Let me show you. Okay, if you guys did not know, I did mention before, and I will repeat myself again, because of the New York midnight close. Okay, so let us go to the M15. Let's find the New York midnight close, 11:45. The candle closed. Let me change the timing to New York. Okay, see, look at this timing. It's 12 a.m. New York close. So I'll draw a line from the candle close, and then I'll label it as New York midnight close. So how come I felt that if I could have longed this area? Because based on backtest, if priced after 2 p.m. Singapore time or 2 a.m. New York time. If after 2 a.m. New York time, 2 a.m. starts here, let me draw a line. 2 a.m. starts here. 2 a.m. New York time. Okay, let me black. Okay, 2 a.m. New York time starts here. As long as price is below the New York midnight close at 2 p.m., price goes down. You can expect, not every time, you can expect price to reverse back up, at least towards the New York midnight close line. Also, if price happens to be trading above after 2 p.m., you can expect a short downwards. So I usually try to catch this kind of movements, but for today, it failed to move higher. I was expecting London session to push price, go up, touch the New York close, and I'm able to enter and go up. Okay, so luckily I cancelled this entry, mainly due to equal lows right here. Let me mark it out. Equal lows. Why is there equal lows? As I mentioned, always there is 2 equal lows right here. Liquidity is attracted there. Although, okay, let me look at on the 5 minutes. I wanted to enter here, exactly here. Okay, you can see there's a M3 3 minutes market imbalance right here. So I wanted to enter here. But as soon as I saw a resistance form on the New York midnight close, drew a line, you can see this area has been rejected, forming some kind of resistance. So the moment it happened, price went down, I immediately deleted my buy limit. Top left here. What I want to see normally is price to go up, this area goes up nicely instead of forming a resistance, comes down, enter through the market imbalance, and then go up. But since that's not the case, price decided to consolidate here, forming a resistance. Okay, let me take a look. Is there anything that I'm looking at? Okay, no, there's nothing on the euro dollar. Move on to Aussie dollar. Okay, as usual, I will mark out. Let me clear this. I'll mark out the previous monthly highs and monthly lows. Okay, next weekly high and weekly low. Okay, next we move on to the daily. Okay, price isn't moving that nice here on the Aussie dollar on the daily. It's like consolidating. It's trading within this range. Okay, let's draw daily high and daily low. Okay, since price has broke above, but price has already cleared the fair value gap, the market imbalance here. It has cleared it on the 4th of October. For hours, let me draw it out. Okay, on the 4 hours, it has also cleared. So let me pull it down smaller. On the 4 hours, it has also cleared the market imbalance. Okay, why price shot up from here? Because there is equal lows. Type it out, sell side liquidity equal lows. Okay, so price cleared this area, price went up, and then now we are in the 4 hours markets imbalance. So how would I be looking for an entry? How would I be looking for an entry? I'll move down to the M15 chart. I'll start to mark it out using white cloth. Let me make it bigger a bit. Okay, let me write down the schematics of white cloth. If you guys have any question, feel free to ask me. Okay, so let us mark it out on the M15 chart. Okay, we normally have BC, AR, automatic reaction, secondary tests, UT, uptrust, and UTAP, uptrust after distribution. So when you want to wait for how you want to search for break of market structure, the BMS, well, you wait for price to break the UTAP, this, the UTAP. So I'll draw a line and I'll add break in market structure, bottom. Where will you have entered? So the moment it broke the UT, you could have entered on the nearest fair value gap. The fair value gap, also known as the market imbalance. Fair value gap. Okay. So fair value gap, market imbalance. Let's see which ones have already cleared. Here has already cleared. Price came up. You can see there's an empty area here. Price came up, cleared the area, and continue heading downwards. So after this area got broken, we could have entered on the M15 fair value gap, the first one. But then stop loss as usual. Price goes down, comes back up. A stop loss could be above all the way up at the UTAP, all the way to the top. And take profit normally. If the trade goes well, I normally will partial by the time price breaks below the AR, the automatic reaction. Okay, I'll partial here. Normally I'll partial here when it breaks. Why do I partial here? Because if I continue holding on to my trade, expecting a distribution for price to continue downwards, price could potentially accumulate after the AR accumulates and continue heading upwards. So to mitigate that risk, I normally take partials if I'm in a sell at the AR. So after the AR is normally the SOW. What is SOW? Sign of weakness at this area. So we can see price actually create another equal low here on the M15 chart. We can mark it out also. Okay. So right now it's possible for price to reaccumulate on the smaller time frame. So I'm moving on to the 1 minute chart. Okay, there's no nice schematic here. So I'll move on. There's nothing at all. So there's nothing for me to see here. We will move on. Give me a moment. I try one. Okay, let's move on to Nzd USD. Okay, let us do it as usual. The monthly, weekly, and daily. Monthly low, monthly high, and weekly. Okay, so next I'll move on to the daily. Hi, so sorry about this. I think we need to rush off now. I need to rush off now. Someone will take over.
Hey, hey Zoran, how are you doing? Let me just see. Hey, Zoran. Just checking if you can hear us. All right. So Yongqing is just feeling a little bit under the weather, so I'll jump in here. Let me see if you get any questions. No questions. Okay. What I want to do as well is I want to share with you, I think just jumping into what he was just talking about. Let me just see. There's a question there. I'm back. How are you doing? No need to wonder where I was. I'm here. I'm always here. Just jumping in and out of different stuff. Any questions at this point, you guys? If not, what I want to share with you as well is towards we've had a couple of news. Sorry, I'm just jumping in right in the middle here, so I'm a bit over the place. But here we go. Okay, just wanted to share with you about this on. Why is it not working? Give me a second. Something looks weird here. Oh, okay. All right, there we go. Normal service is resumed. On Tuesday, just want to do a quick recap with you. On Tuesday, we saw the Aussie interest rates decision. Okay, that was actually quite an interesting one. It was a 2.35%, expected to go 2.85%. A 50 basis points increase was expected, but what actually happened, the RBA rose rates by only 25 basis points, taking it to a 2.6%. All right. So what that means is that they didn't do as much, they didn't increase it as much as expected, which is why we actually saw a downward move in the Aussie dollar. I'll show you that on the charts. But even before the release of this news, I was already anticipating this move lower. All right. Why so? Is because if I show you the previous rates decision on the 2nd of August, on the 5th of July, and the 7th of June. All right. So jumping into the charts here, the Aussie dollar on the, let's look at it on the, I'll just clear out some of the stuff. Okay, let's look at it on the H1 time frame. Okay, so on the 2nd of August, okay, so you can see here on the 2nd of August, on the release of the news here, right? So right at that 11 o'clock timing, GMT +8, that would help a lot to find the right time. Okay, so on the 2nd of August at that 11 o'clock timing, you can see that when the news for the RBA increasing rates by 50 basis points, previously we saw a big drop in the Aussie dollar, right? Following on with that, you can see on the 5th of July and the 7th of June, the 5th of July at this point. So 5th of July at about 11 o'clock as well. Same thing, we saw a bit of a fluctuation there in the Aussie dollar and then a big drop despite a 50 basis point increase. And then the 7th of June, again, you can see that at 11 o'clock, same thing, we actually saw a bit of a fluctuation. Was it 7th of June? Yeah, 7th of June. A fluctuation, but then overall still slight move towards the downside there on the Aussie dollar. Okay, so because of that, we saw every time over the last 3 sessions, a move in the from the RBA, we saw the Aussie dollar drop, and that's why I was anticipating that move towards the downside on the 7th of June, the 5th of July, and then again on the 2nd of August. So what happened on the news release on Tuesday, which was on the 6th of September, 4th of August. So Aussie dollar on the 4th of August here. Oh, 4th of October, sorry. We actually saw that happen. So this was the news release. Okay. We saw the Aussie dollar actually drop. And why I actually like that move in particular is you can see that the Aussie dollar before the news was reacting very strongly to that 0.6527 level, right? Tested, rejected, tested, rejected. Just before the news came very close, and then it was looking like it's going to show that downside move. We actually saw that move push towards the downside there. That was at 11 o'clock on the 4th, right? So on that news, just before it dropped towards the downside. Okay, so I actually did get in before the news. In this case, I got in before the news. It was at 11:30. I got in at 11:15, just before the news was released, and then I caught that move towards the downside. I anticipated the initial trade idea I had was to sell at about that point, stop loss above the resistance, take profit, was all the way down there. Okay. What I did in the end was as it dropped, it came to that point. It came to this level here, and then I got out. I didn't think that it was going to continue down. In the smaller time frame, I saw that it was likely to bounce, and that's why I got out the trade. And very luckily, I did get out the trade because the next couple of hours, it shot straight up, tested that resistance, rejected the resistance through the night, and then came back down again. Right now, I can tell you that I actually why I jumped onto this session now is I actually just closed off my trade. So what I did was I saw the rejection of this resistance level, very similar to what happened here before. Right, so I looked at it, the next hour closed strongly below that resistance. I actually got in at that point. I got in at the close of that hour. My stop loss was up there at about 40 pips. So I gave it some good space above. And then my take profit, I actually had it all the way down at about 80 pips. So I was looking at a 1:2 risk reward ratio towards the downside. What actually happened? It bounced up. So at an hour, it bounced up and then it came back down. I was more confident as the hour closed towards the downside. Bit of a doji testing up, rejecting the upward move, closing lower. And then it fell, right? It fell all the way down. At that point, just before I jumped onto this, I closed off my trade. And then I don't have to worry about that now. I didn't think that it would get to that 80 pip target in a hurry because we do have a level there at about that 6454 level. All right, so I wanted to get off the trade, jump onto the call. At least I would have been stressing out on my trade in that case, in that scenario. So I closed out at about a 25 pip profit level. Okay, so that was my Aussie trade. I do think that we're likely to see the Aussie dollar continue within this range. So I think it's going to come down, test around this level, maybe break a little bit lower, but likely to bounce around this point like that all the way until tomorrow. Right, big news tomorrow. I'll tell you about that in a couple of minutes. So that was the Aussie dollar on the news release and also what I just did before this call. The next thing to watch, or the next thing I want to share with you is yesterday's New Zealand, right? RBNZ increased rates was 3%, expected 3.5, was released at 3.5. In this case, what we actually saw on the Kiwi dollar, you can see here yesterday at 9 a.m. So here we go on the 5th at 9 a.m. About there. One more. Okay, there. As the news was released, it shot up, right? So question you might have is, hey, wait, why did the Aussie drop while the Kiwi dollar shot up? And you can actually see that from the previous, I'll just do one more example here. On the 17th of August, they increased rates as well by 50 basis points. And on the 17th of August, you can see that, swing it back. Wait, was it 17th of August? Yep, 17th of August. Let me just find it. Give me a moment. Okay, there we go. Right about there. Right, so at 9 a.m. time, same thing, Kiwi dollar shot towards the upside on release of the news before tracking lower again. So why does the Kiwi dollar shoot up before turning down and the Aussie dollar turn down before on release of the news? It's really down to the statement, right? It's really down to the statement. You can see that when they released the news, you can see the monetary policy statement, there was actually a consideration of a 75 basis points rate hike at this meeting, right? A 75 basis point rate hike. So it's not just that they increased rates by 50 basis points, they were actually considering whether it could get to 75, right? So it's quite a hawkish move. It's quite a hawkish move. We've done 50, but we were actually thinking about 75. And that's why we actually saw the Kiwi dollar shoot towards the upside. I can tell you that this was a trade that I didn't get into, or a news event that I didn't trade, because I wasn't sure that, well, no one knew that they were considering 75 basis points. And also, given that it was at that resistance level, anticipating the Kiwi dollar to shoot up, how high can it go? How much high can it break above that resistance? I wasn't ready to take on that risk, right? So a bit of a selection in terms of when you're trading the news. I traded the Aussie, didn't do the Kiwi just because of their resistance levels and also the overall sentiment coming from the RBNZ and also the RBA. Okay. The next thing to pay attention to for this week, not so much today, but it's more into tomorrow. All right. Tomorrow, US is the first Friday of the month. Big news from the US employment numbers. The non-farm employment change data was 315K, expected to 65 there. Unemployment rate, no change, expected at 3.7%. Average hourly earnings looking to stay at a 0.3%. That's going to be a big news event because you can see that previously in the previous non-farm payrolls, we've seen big numbers. Big strong numbers was in May was 428, expected 390, came out 428. June 436, expected 325, came out 390. It's been beating their forecast over and over again. Could it happen this time round? I'll tell you, don't gamble on the non-farm payroll. Wait for the news to come out before getting into a trade, right? This is one event that I wouldn't get in before the news. I'll get in after the news. Look at how the price moves first. Anticipation, or rather my best guess is that we're going to see a strong number. Why I think we're going to see a strong number is because from yesterday's ADP non-farm number, where was it? Yesterday's ADP non-farm, and ADP is a private calculation of the non-farm numbers, not the government's number. It was 185, expected 200, came out at 208. A small increase, but still overall showing that we're likely to see some positivity in terms of employment. And this was also a view reflected by the FOMC or the Federal Reserve. Employment numbers in the US is strong. You know, the spending or the sentiment in the US is strong despite the rate increases. That's also why the Federal Reserve has been quite confident to keep increasing rates as aggressively as they have been already, right? So again, watch out for the non-farm payroll data to be released on Friday. going to be a big news. Likely to see a lot of activity there. But on Friday, I think what you could be looking towards is not so much the other pairs, but the US CAD, because we do have employment numbers to be released for the US and also employment numbers to be released for the Canadians. You see unemployment rate for Canadians looking to stay at 5.4%, employment change looking to improve from a minus 39.7K to a 19.5K. What you see here is that previously we were seeing quite bad numbers, a whole series of bad numbers. Question is, are we going to see an improvement here? Right? Is this going to be a positive number? Or could it be again another disappointment as what we've had in July, August, and September? All right. So and that's why I said good potential on the CAD there, because if we do see something similar, right? It was in September minus 30, expected 15, came out at 39. If it does come out weak, then looking at the US CAD, right? I'll clear this out a little bit. If we do see a stronger US dollar, we see a weaker CAD, what's going to happen? It is currently trading at that 1.3660 and climbing as I'm speaking. We could see the US CAD push towards the upside. I like especially how it has formed a very good support at 1.35, right? And also that it has broken above 1.36, that level there quite strongly just today, and over yesterday broke up again today. All I'm looking for is tomorrow, right? I wouldn't do anything yet for today on the US CAD. I'll be looking for tomorrow, especially if it continues to climb back above that 1.37 level, right? You see it test there and reject. If tonight it climbs up, tomorrow afternoon, I'm expecting a slowdown in volatility as we lead up to the non-farm payrolls. So what I'm looking for here is price to climb up, test around this level, okay? And as it tests around that level, with the news release, if the news does come out, stronger US dollar, weaker Canadian dollar, then what I'll be looking for here will be a buying opportunity, maybe above 1.3720, take profit all the way back towards that 1.3850 level or 40 level. Stop loss about a good 40 pips. You're looking at almost 1:2 risk-reward ratio, or almost 1:3 risk-reward ratio towards the upside there, dependent on how the news gets released, right? So this is not a trade that you want to jump into before the news, not something you want to look into to gamble, right? This will be looking at price, looking at the news. If it does push up above that resistance, then I'll be looking for that continuation towards upside. Very similar, I'll drag it right across 1.37, very similar to what happened here, right? You can see that big push towards the upside. If I keep dragging it right across, you can see that every time it breaks strongly from the downside up towards, you can see it climb quite close towards the 1.38, almost towards the 1.39 resistance level. Again, towards the upside, again, towards the upside. So what if we see the US dollar weaken? Then it'll be a flip side, right? With the volatility, we could see US dollar getting weaker. If the non-farm payroll comes out not as expected, then you're going to look for a short position, a selling opportunity, rejection of that resistance level. Stop loss can be even tighter, 30-something% or 30-something pips. Take profit 75, 1:2 towards the downside. Or if we do see a much weaker US dollar, then we could actually see a big move back down towards 1.35. Very good risk-reward ratio, 1:5 on the US CAD, as we look for it to reject that 1.37 resistance level. All right, so very quickly did a quick review of the Aussie dollar with the RBA interest rates decision. It dropped, spiked up, hit a resistance, turn back down. Kiwi dollar, very hawkish RBNZ, right? Very hawkish RBNZ, and that's why we saw it push towards the upside. It is now moving very similarly to the Aussie dollar, tracking lower. A bit too late to get in right now. What I would be looking for on the Kiwi dollar is if it can break below that 0.5680 level, right? If it can continue coming down and it does break below this point, then we might see further downside on the Kiwi dollar. About 5.6 to be extra safe, below 5.670. Stop loss 30 pips, take profit towards the recent low there, about 70 pips or 1:2 risk reward ratio towards the downside on the Kiwi dollar. Move lower on the Kiwi, on the Aussie, on any pair right now will be dependent solely on the dollar index, right? Why so is because it's no big news leading up right now all the way to non-farm payrolls. So what we're looking for is a reaction on the dollar index. It's dropped significantly. It's hit that 110 level, and then it's bounced last night. Today, a bit more volatile, but it's set at that level of 110.85 right now, looking like it's pushing higher. That's also one reason why I got into the Aussie dollar trade. I'm out of it. Right now, what I'm looking for on the US or the dollar index is if it can break above that 111.60 level. All right, I wouldn't do anything right now. I'll only sit there, wait. If it does break above, we're going to see strong US dollar, then it'd be quite simple across the board. Either sell the Aussie, sell the Kiwi. I wouldn't be looking at the US yen. It's likely to get resisted by that 145 level. Pound dollar, I've been sharing. I had that big trade towards the downside. What needs to happen now is it needs to break below this point before we can see it drop lower. All right. So with all that said, if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, non-farm payrolls coming up. If you have any questions, let me know. And also, remember, there's one more there. We do have the Canadian Bank of Canada Governor McCallum speaking. Not a big news event at that point. We do have some FOMC members speaking tonight or early tomorrow morning. Just be a bit wary of that. We might see some volatility from that point on. Okay. Remember, on Monday, we got a lot of bank holidays coming up on Monday. So volatility after the non-farm payrolls, it might die down a little bit as we see markets take a little bit of a breather, right? It's a long weekend, so we might see volatility return on Tuesday onwards. Not so much on Monday, but on Tuesday onwards. So with that said, if you have any questions, let me know. If not, what I'll do is I'll call an end to the session. I hope you trade well, trade safe. And if you have any questions again, let me know. All right. So for now, take care. Hey, just see you just pop back on again. Any questions, any trades that you want me to look at that you've just jumped into and you might need some questions answered? If not, I would say I'll call an end to the session, and then we'll catch up with you at the next webinar. I'm not sure when the next webinar will be, but we'll catch up with you again at the next webinar. For now, trade well, trade safe. Take care now. Bye-bye. See you, Zoran.